Welcome, everyone. My name is Norman Eng, Public Affairs Specialist for the U.S. Small Business Administration's Massachusetts District Office and Region Lead for the New England WHIAANHPI Regional Network. I want to first thank you all for joining us today at our first community roundtable event. Our goal today is to start a dialogue with Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities in New England. We are relaunching the WHIAANHPI Regional Network here in Region 1, New England, after a period of time on hiatus. Personally, I have been involved with WHIAANHPI when it was WHIAAPI during the Obama administration, so it's just a privilege to serve this time around as region lead. What is the regional network? The regional network is comprised of federal officials who facilitate improved communication, engagement, and coordination between the federal government and the AA and NHPI communities throughout the United States. If you are just learning about the initiative and want to discover more about the mechanics, history, and importance, please visit hhs.gov, where the initiative currently sits. There's a page under the About Us section on hhs.gov for you to learn more. Today, we're here to introduce ourselves to the public and make new connections. Here in Region 1, New England, we have been meeting regularly virtually this past year, getting to know each other, building, and it's just been amazing meeting some of the great people that work alongside me as a public servant in so many different federal agencies, and I just can't wait for you to meet them. Just a PSA on regional network recruitment. One of the questions we received via Eventbrite registration is from Kanita Touch. At the USDA, he said, I am new and just want to learn more and to connect to this group. Well, Kanita, if you and other local feds on here today interested in volunteering and just being involved with the network, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We are building a brand new regional network here in Region 1, and anyone with a genuine passion to serve the AA and NHPI community is welcome to join us. It's all about coalition building and resource sharing, working together in cooperation. We are simply stronger when we work together. Now for our goals today, we have about 20 speakers, so we will need to move efficiently through our program to ensure we keep all of you engaged and just respect your time by ending in a timely manner. Our main objective is to simply introduce you to the network and spark a conversation in hopes of building a stronger relationship into the future, working in partnership towards greater equity, justice, and opportunities for AA and NHPIs in the region. Invite us to speak to your events. At your events, the hope is that you will utilize us. If you are having an event and want a speaker, for example, from HUD or HHS or SBA, we would love to join you. After all, we work for you. We are public servants. We work for you. This is your government. And there are public servants like me and others in the regional network here to make sure your voice is heard and to make sure you know where to find assistance. Invite us to speak at your events, or let's collaborate on something. Now, I just want to share my screen and go through some housekeeping items. So just want to remind everyone, this is a safe space, and please be respectful of one another. This event will be recorded so that we can review questions at a later time. Please use the raise hand emojis and the chat box. Live transcript is available, and want to point out that for those of you that did include questions during your Eventbrite registration, they have been forwarded to our speakers, and some of the questions will be addressed in our speakers' remarks, and we will bring up some questions as they arise. After each segment, as our speakers conclude a segment, we'll bring up a couple questions, and we'll also go live with questions. Some of the speakers today represented are from these different agencies. Now, I do want to direct you to the chat box. Can everybody out there find the chat box, and just want to get everybody used to a new acronym. Instead of AAPI, it's now AANHPI. So can everybody out there just find the chat box and type AANHPI? I want to see how many responses we can get. AANHPI. So this time around with the initiative, right, it's more inclusive than ever. We have added Native Hawaiians in between AA and PI. So I just want everybody, thank you everybody for saying Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders. Now say it 5 times fast. Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders. Yeah. Just want everybody to get used to that acronym because we're using that from now on. All right. Now what I want to do is those of you that are able to, please introduce yourselves. This is a roundtable virtually, right? It's a big old roundtable. And so those of you that want to say who you are, what organization you're from, please do so in the chat. Okay. Now, I want to introduce our special guest speaker. Her name is Ophelia Hukini, and she will be leading us in an opening prayer. Ophelia Hukini has devoted her life to understanding others through understanding herself. She works for Reconciling Ministries Network, a United Methodist organization rooted in LGBTQ justice and inclusion, and Hope Gateway, a non-denominational church in Portland, Maine, focused on inclusivity. She also serves on the board of the Equality Community Center, a queer and trans center community hub in Portland, Maine, and writes on her blog and in a forthcoming novel, Hukini works to reconcile Christian faith and queer identity, a cultural divide many perceive to be unbridgeable. Ophelia, over to you.
Thank you, Norm. Thanks so much for gathering us today and for creating this important space for us to be. Good morning, friends. I invite you to be in a spirit of openness and reverence if you would like. I believe we engage this deeply important work with our whole selves, the integrated body, mind, soul. And so this moment is an invitation to be here with all those important components of yourself. If prayer is not your mode of connection, that's wonderful as well. I invite you to breathe deeply, to sit in a comfortable position, and to be present in your body. Source of love and life, we are gathered in this most peculiar and now natural space, made nonetheless sacred by our communion. We come from threads of communities and lineages that traverse a world. We come representing departments and organizations that themselves are representations of hopes yet to be fulfilled, hopes we are yet fulfilling by the abundant grace of the divine. We wish it were enough to pray. We wish it were enough to speak our dreams into existence. But the work before us demands something of us. And so we convene and we dare to speak our dreams aloud because the sound of our siblings' voices strums our own heartstrings. We convene and we speak because that is an important waypoint on the path of action. We do not yearn alone. We do not suffer alone. We do not rejoice alone, and we do not heal alone. We long together for a New England, for a country where Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, and Native Hawaiian Americans not only survive the threats of racism, poverty, healthcare discrepancies, housing insecurity, language barriers, environmental racism, and more, but we also want to thrive. We long together for an ethos of togetherness up and down this region. We long to be known and to know one another. Creator spirit, sustainer spirit. Fold our many efforts and plans like so many layers of dough, so that together, when we are heated, when we are faced with fire, we rise. Gift us with the audacity to follow through, to remember our commitments to one another long after we disperse from here. Endow us with the knowledge that we have been here. We have ancestors here. We belong here. And provide for us the tools of spirit and material to build something of which we and those who will come after us will be proud. May it be so.
Thank you, Ophelia. That was simply beautiful. I have goosebumps. Thank you so much for blessing us with that. Now I want to introduce our special national guest speakers delivering introductory remarks. First up is Crystal Ka'ai, Executive Director for WHIAANHPI. Crystal.
So much, Norman, and good morning, everyone. My name is Crystal Ka'ai, and as the Executive Director of the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, or what we call WHIAANHPI, it is such a pleasure to join you for today's Community Roundtable in our New England region. I want to especially thank Norman for his leadership as the head of our WHIAANHPI Region 1 network, and I also want to express my gratitude to all of the federal officials, White House officials, and of course our community leaders, and I see some elected officials as well who have joined us this morning. We know that the past 2 years have truly been unlike any other, as our communities have faced multiple crises due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition to the disproportionate health and economic impacts of the pandemic, there has also been a pandemic of hate targeting many in the Asian American community. President Biden knows that any federal response to address the multitude of challenges impacting our nation must include our diverse AA and NHPI communities. And that is why in May of last year, he signed Executive Order 14031 to reestablish the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, and to authorize the creation of the President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. And we are very honored to have one of our commissioners here today, who you will be hearing from shortly. Our initiative is housed within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, or what we call HHS, and it is co-chaired by HHS Secretary Javier Becerra and U.S. Trade Representative Ambassador Catherine Tai, who are both members of the President's Cabinet. And under the Biden-Harris administration, this initiative has been reinvigorated to drive a whole of government agenda to advance equity, justice, and opportunity for our AA and NHPI communities. In December, we officially relaunched our commission, our federal interagency working group, and regional network, which are tasked with advancing key priorities that are included in our executive order. And this ranges from everything from tackling the health and economic impacts of the pandemic that have disproportionately impacted our communities, to addressing anti-Asian violence and hate, to promoting educational equity, pushing for greater data disaggregation, expanding language access for our communities, and so much more. The regional network plays a crucial role in WHIAANHPI's work and is comprised of over 400 federal officials who serve as our boots on the ground and help to connect our initiative with local AA and NHPI communities all across the country. And in fact, just earlier this month, I had the honor of traveling to Massachusetts, where I held a listening session with Asian American community leaders, business leaders, and elected officials in Boston's Chinatown. And I also visited Lowell, Massachusetts, where we held a listening session with Congresswoman Lori Trahan and Asian American leaders. And I had the opportunity to visit Lowell's Cambodia town and meet with business owners and nonprofit leaders who are doing truly incredible work in our community on the ground. While I was in Massachusetts, I promised that this was just the beginning of what we hope to be continued engagement with communities in New England and beyond. So we know that in order for our federal government to truly serve all Americans, we need to rebuild trust in government and create opportunities for community leaders here in New England and across the country to connect directly with federal officials. And that starts with roundtables like today. So once again, I want to thank you all for joining us this morning. We look forward to our work together. With that, I'll turn it back over to Norman.
Thank you, Crystal. Up next is a true trailblazer, Erica Moritsugu, Deputy Assistant to the President and AANHPI Senior Liaison at the White House. Erica?
Aloha, y'all. Thank you, Norm, for the introduction, and to you and the WHIAANHPI leadership for putting together this roundtable. It's invigorating to see everyone's faces on this Zoom today as we relaunch the New England Regional Network. Now, Ben and Paul know this, but that's not the reason. It's a poorly kept secret. But these regional network roundtables are among my favorite events. It's a bias that comes from my work for extraordinary senators and as a headquarters fed in the Obama administration that formed my reverence and my appreciation for the hard work of our brothers and sisters in the field who are closest to those who we should center in our policies at the end of our service spectrum. And those are the community stakeholders that you've assembled for us to be in relationship with. So thank you. I'm really happy to be here to give you a snapshot of the work that we've been doing here at the White House. I've been in my position, which is a first ever in government, for 1 year and 1 week today. As a member of the President's senior staff, I act as the voice in the West Wing to lift up the hopes and needs of our Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander communities in all of our administration's policies, politics, and community engagement. It's my charge to make sure that our policies are inclusive of the AAN and HPI community's viewpoints and needs, and also to make sure that the impacts of our policies are informed by and communicated to our community members. So over the last 12 months, alongside Crystal and our colleague Howard O at the White House Office of Public Engagement, who we'll hear from next, we reinvigorated the government's relationships with AAN and HPI community members. We listened to the community's concerns, enhanced collaboration within the federal government, and coordination to ensure that our seat at the table is strong and built out. We elevated the community's voice as policy decisions were made. And these policy decisions cut across a spectrum of areas. They include the broad policies that you read about or see in the news that are national issues of the day, like the public health impacts of the pandemic, our economic agenda, government funding, the caregiving infrastructure crisis, voting rights, climate change, combating gender-based violence. But we also work to make sure that we're addressing longstanding issues that are uniquely important to the AAN and HPI communities, like data disaggregation, language access, and of course, the persistent scourge of anti-Asian hate and violence. It's been from the very beginning of the Biden-Harris administration that our president and vice president have demonstrated their long-standing commitment to advance equity, justice, and opportunity for AAN and HPIs. And the range of policies and issues are broad, from reducing barriers and expanding language access to federal services to our communities. We're also supporting our AAN and HPI communities through the American Rescue Plan investments to help AAN and HPI small businesses and entrepreneurs grow and thrive. We're acknowledging injustices of the past, such as the commemoration of the Day of Remembrance with a presidential proclamation and a signing ceremony in the Oval Office for the Amache Historic Preservation Bill last month. And we're firmly condemning anti-Asian bias and violence, which the president did during his State of the Union address this year. Now, while we're proud of what we've achieved so far, we do know that there is so much more to be done. And we can't do it and don't want to do it and shouldn't do it without you. So I'm looking forward to our work together. Thank you for your invaluable work. And Norm, thank you to you, especially for your leadership. Mahalo for the opportunity to join you. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Norm.
Thank you so much, Erica. Our next speaker is Howard O, Associate Director in the Office of Public Engagement at the White House. Howard?
Norman, thank you again. Thank you for your leadership. And also just want to give a shout out to Ophelia. Thank you for that beautiful story and speech. As a member of both communities as well, I understand how important it is to be visible, especially in all things we do. So speaking of visibility, I work in the Office of Public Engagement. So the goal of the Public Engagement Office is to focus on making the White House inclusive and accessible to all citizens. We're responsible for creating and coordinating direct dialogue between the Biden-Harris administration and the diverse American public. So we work at the local, state, and national levels to ensure community leaders, diverse perspectives, and new voices will have the opportunity to inform the work of the president by creating and maintaining a two-way dialogue between the administration and communities across the nation, ensuring that voices are heard, that concerns are translated into actions across the administration. We do this through outreach, communication, public events, official announcements from the administration, and we find ways to engage and remove obstacles and barriers that create opportunities to improve public awareness and involvement in the work of the Biden-Harris administration. So I work closely alongside Erica Moritsugu, also Crystal Kai and Rebecca Lee. Very excited as we call ourselves the three pillars. And just as a fun fact, the person who held my role in previous administrations was Cal Penn. So definitely big shoes to fill, but this is a big administration and we have lots of big plans ahead. So congratulations on your launch, and we're excited to work closely with you all.
Thank you so much, Howard, for taking time out. I know you're a busy guy. Next up is Kevin D. Kim, member of the President's Advisory Commission on AA and NHPIs. Kevin?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Norman, for the introduction. While I currently serve as the New York City Commissioner of Small Business Services, today I'm honored to be here as a member of President Biden's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. First, I just want to commend Norman for all of his hard work coordinating the New England Regional Network, but also for putting together this roundtable. Thank you, Norman, again. I also want to thank all the federal representatives speaking today. We greatly appreciate your commitment to engaging and working with our New England AA and NHPI communities. Today's important conversation will center on how to increase access to federal resources for our communities in the New England region. And I know how important that is in my current role as New York City Commissioner of Small Business Services, because so often historically, our community has not known about how to access government resources. And also as a Korean American immigrant and a child of Korean American immigrant small business owners with limited English abilities, I understand how diverse our AA and NHPI experiences can be and how we face unique opportunities and challenges. But we also share many common challenges, and it's gatherings like this that can help us connect and share experiences that can not only strengthen our community, but really allow it to flourish. And the time to get organized is critically important now because our community is growing exponentially. It has been these past few years, and it's expected to more than double in the next decade. And together as an organized group, we can learn a lot more, grow faster, and become stronger as a community. The Biden administration recognizes all of this and has made great strides to improve the lives of AA and NHPI families and communities. So it's really an honor for me here today to represent the President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. As has been mentioned, the commission is comprised of 25 individuals selected by the president who represent the diversity and expertise of the AA and NHPI community. And I can tell you from my meetings already with subcommittee members and our entire commission, we are really dedicated to advocating for all of the issues that are impacting the community. We know that only together we'll really be able to advance the equity, justice, and opportunity that AA and HPI community members deserve. So today, the work that we do is important, but it's only effective when it's really done in collaboration like this with all of you here. And I and my fellow commissioners would love to hear from all of you. So please reach out to us. I hope today's roundtable will provide everyone the space to connect with each other, to federal resources and programs that will be critical to strengthen and support our communities. I really want to thank you again for having me here, and it's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kim, and thank you to all our national leaders joining us today. Next, I want to segue over to the next segment. We're doing great on time, by the way, and we want to introduce you to all of our Region 1 federal representatives. And our first segment, I do want to put out a caveat that U.S. Marshal Wing Chow, who is the first Chinese American U.S. Marshal in the United States history in Rhode Island, he called me last night, and he unfortunately got called into a situation where there was a officer shot, and so not an officer shot, but there was a shooting, and there's some sort of press conference or gathering today. He could not make it, but he sends his regards. First, I want to introduce our first speaker in this segment, Kim Ainsworth Claskin, Executive Director of the Greater Boston Federal Executive Board. Kim, over to you.
Good morning, all, and thank you for having me. I'm going to actually yield most of my time back. I just wanted to introduce myself, and hopefully, if I have not met you, I will. My job here locally, for purposes of this forum, is to really talk about the federal government workforce as a whole. We are one of the nation's largest employers, including here in New England. And my hope is if you are a federal employee, we can help you become ambassadors to promote all the opportunities in federal government. And if you are a partner of the federal government, my hope is to be able to help you at least consider working for the federal government at some point in your career. So you'll hear more from me in the coming months, but I will be here for the day. So if anybody has any questions, please, I'll put my contact information in the chat, and don't hesitate to connect. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Our next speaker is Mike Vlachich, Mike is the SBA Regional Administrator for Region 1 here in New England. Mike?
Thank you, Norm, and thank you so much for your work at SBA and beyond. It's a pleasure to be here with everybody today and such a variety of other federal resource partners coming together to connect with the AANHPI communities. It is a privilege to serve at the Small Business Administration with a team that puts equity in the forefront of what we do. Just a few days ago, SBA Administrator Guzman released a statement highlighting the significance and impact of the SBA's Equity Action Plan, released alongside equity plans from over 90 federal agencies as part of a coordinated effort by the Biden-Harris administration to center equity across the federal government. Among the key elements of the SBA's Equity Action Plan announced included access to capital, improvement in government contracting opportunities, improving access to disaster assistance, improving access to business counseling, training, and services. Today, we want our stakeholders to know that we are here to help you navigate all of the resources and programs that the SBA has to offer. My team and I throughout New England are here to make sure you get plugged in and connected. As a matter of fact, as I've noted, we have Norman on as well as John Hugh from our Connecticut office. So to support us and how they're happy to answer any questions. And let me conclude just by saying that we support the White House initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, helping to achieve greater equity, justice, and opportunity as outlined in the mission of the initiative. Thank you for having me here today, and back to you, Norm.
Thank you, R.A. Vlacic. Such a pleasure to have you. You know, it's very important that we have senior leadership involved in the initiative. And so for that, you know, your presence means everything to us in the initiative. So after each of the 4 segments, I do want to stop and pause for questions. And so that was the end of the first segment where we highlighted federal leadership. And so one of the questions that came through Eventbrite during registration came from Mr. Jae Jinsup Chang, who is the president of the Boston Okta Korean Business Association. And the question he submitted was this: many immigrants' business capabilities are practically limited by their language and cultural barriers. What are the federal government's policies and resources to improve Asian immigrants' English proficiency? And so I wanted to sort of pose that to R.A. Vlacic, and also if anybody else out there wants to ask any questions, please put it in the chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Norman. And certainly would love to hear other feedback and thoughts on this. And it is something that we do take very seriously. I will say, the administrator likes to say very frequently that we like to meet people where they are. There were very few positives that came out of the pandemic. There were none in many ways, but one area that we did find that we were able to work a little bit better at meeting people where they are was in having more multilingual publications to go along with COVID-related material, so that we know that one of the barriers to entry are resources and services is language, and so we're continuing to build on that. Certainly, that was a lot of resource that was invested in that, and now with this Equity Action Plan, particularly in the disaster area, there continues to be, I think, an understanding, but it's certainly something that I am going to talk with my leadership about and encourage. And quite frankly, that's what these roundtables hopefully will lead to, is more understanding cross-agency. And then in general, Norman, to the question around language proficiency, I think, again, that's something that if that's a priority for this group, I will certainly do everything I can to be an advocate and supporter.
Thank you so much, Mike. Really just appreciate your presence here today. It means so much to us. Now I want to go to the second segment, and the topic here is environment and justice. And so it's a real privilege to introduce our first speaker, Justin Locke. logging in all the way from California. Justin is the Special Assistant for Asian American Pacific Islander Issues, WHIAANHPI's Region 9 co-lead at the U.S. Department of Justice Community Relations Service. Justin?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Norm, as well as all of our WHIAANHPI leadership. And it's a pleasure to be addressing the folks in the regional network over there in New England and from across the country. As Norm said, my name is Justin Locke. I'm the Special Assistant for NHPI issues for the Department of Justice Community Relations Service. The CRS serves as America's peacemaker for communities in conflict by mediating disputes and enhancing capacity to resolve future conflicts under Title 10 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act of 2009. CRS responds to community conflicts arising from differences of race, color, national origin, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, and disability. CRS does not investigate or prosecute, but rather CRS impartially works with communities in conflict to help rebuild relationships that facilitate mutual understanding and to encourage the development of local solutions. CRS's conciliators work directly with state and local officials, community-based organizations like many of the folks here on this virtual meeting today, community and civil rights advocates, faith-based groups, and law enforcement on a voluntary basis. CRS's facilitated dialogue, consultation training, and mediation are fully confidential and importantly are offered at no cost to the communities with which we work. The DOJ CRS has been doing a lot of work in response to this priority area of the rise in hate and bias targeting our communities. I can go on further. I'll drop some resources into the chat regarding some of the toolkits that we've developed, as well as some of the programs that we've had available for communities wanting to have these conversations, wanting to connect, much like we're doing today, as WHIAANHPI has done a pivotal role in connecting federal agencies, local leaders, state leaders, elected officials, and community together to talk about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Really appreciate you dialing in from California. Next up is Mandy Lau, Region 1 Site Assessment Manager, Remedial Policy, Contracts, and Site Assessment Section for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Mandy?
Thanks, Norm. Hi, everyone. My name is Mandy Lau, and I work for the EPA, and I'm a Site Assessment Manager in the Superfund program. I also serve as the Regional AAPI Special Emphasis Program Manager. We serve all 6 New England states, and our mission is to protect human health and environment. So here in our region, we have been working on increasing DEIA in our hiring and retention efforts. And the current administration has also set a priority on environmental justice. And we've been working on many action items in each of our different programs. So our public affairs office will actually have more updates as they come and from our agency. So check out our Twitter and Facebook page, but also feel free to reach out to me with any questions. Thank you, Norm.
Thank you, Mandy. Our next speaker is Pu Vonghamdi, State Conservationist, U.S. Department of Agriculture at the Natural Resources Conservation Service based in Rhode Island. Pu?
Thank you, Norm. Hello, everybody. Good morning. And my name is Pu Vonghamdi. I work for U.S. Department of Agriculture as a state conservationist. In my capacity, I am responsible for overall operation for the NRCS agency in Rhode Island, including budgeting, personnel, implement conservation programs that listed in the Farm Bill. So, my agency works to conserve our natural resources on the private land. And we also working with municipal or town and state when we have a disasters and floodings and so on. Here in the state of Rhode Island, we have been working with all agriculture producers that include agriculture farmer and urban farmers. If you'd like to get an update, so you can visit our websites. You will learn more what we do, and I will put that website's information in the chat box. And then also you can also, if you have any questions, you can contact me via email, and I will also put that information in the chat box as well. Thank you. Back to you, Norm.
Thank you, Poo. And I believe we may be doing an event in May with Pooh and others. So be on the lookout for that. Our next speaker in this segment and the last one, and just as a reminder, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or raise your hand after Sasha speaks. Sasha Aziz is a park ranger for the North Atlantic Appalachian region for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Sasha?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sasha Aziz, and I work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I'm a park ranger in our regional office in Hadley, Massachusetts, and part of our visitor services regional team. I do different things based on our priorities and different projects that I'm given, but the spirit of my job is working to support our national wildlife refuges. The mission of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is working with others to conserve, protect, and enhance fish, wildlife, and plants and their habitat for the continuing benefit of the American people. And today there are 567 National Wildlife Refuge, 38 wetland management districts that make up about 95 million acres of land. You can find a National Wildlife Refuge from sea to shining sea and almost every type of habitat imaginable. And we contribute about 3.2 billion a year into local economies. I encourage you all to look up a National Wildlife Refuge near you. In the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, we're striving to increase diversity and getting more people outside. You know, nature belongs to all of us. We have numerous personnel in different fields working together to make up our group and carry out our mission. Some jobs include the standard biologist or park ranger, but we hire budget analysts, IT specialists, archaeologists, maintenance workers, all types of people that come together to carry out our mission. You can connect with us on multiple platforms such as Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and also individual refuges on Facebook as well. If you wish to contact me, I'll put my email in the chat and other resources. Thank you.
Thanks, Sasha. It's just so interesting to learn about the different, functions that the federal government have and the rich, diverse people that represent us. And so people like Sasha, people like Pooh, Mandy are amazing. So now I want to pause and see if there's any questions. You can put it in the chat or raise your hand. I did get one from Mr. Ted Sue right now. This question is for Justin Locke. Justin, in Connecticut, some AAPI business owners and African-American businesses are organizing a dialogue around a very unfortunate local event, and I would be seeking some guidance from Justin, and he puts his contact. In addition, Justin, I want to keep Justin on the spot here because we did receive a couple other questions via Eventbrite prior to the event starting. So Mr. Paul Rathayem, Lowell City Councilor, who I had the pleasure of meeting during Crystal's visit to Cambodia Town a few weeks back, also writes, the violence against Asian Americans dramatically during COVID-19 because of we are accused of spreading the pandemic. What measures do you have to take or are taking to stem the violence? And also Mr. Alan Tan, former Connecticut Commission on Equity and Opportunity, is also asking about what is happening with AAPI hate and hate crimes in general. So Justin, I just want to turn this over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Norm, for the questions. It seems like these are questions shared by many community leaders across the country of what can be done to address this epidemic of hate and bias against our communities. I did hear in the first and second question some suggestion or of ongoing efforts to hold solidarity dialogues with other communities other than our own to better understand sort of shared interests. And I think that's right on target. Going to what we're doing here at the DOJ CRS and working with community leaders such as yourselves, I'll be including in the chat box a link to our toolkit which is titled Preventing and Responding to Bias and Hate Incidents Against AANHPI Communities. And what that is a collection of suggested or model practices that can be used by a variety of stakeholders, including state and local electeds, community-based organizations, faith leaders, youth educators, and just concerned citizens in general, regardless of their position or organization, in formulating sort of a joint community response plan, either following an incident or hopefully in preparation or before such incidents occur. And included in that toolkit are suggestions or practices such as preparing a joint community statement against racism and hate. Things like hosting a public solidarity event with other communities, faith leaders from other traditions, the LGBTQ community, disabilities community, and others against hate and bias. Being prepared for possible unrest, bias incidents, and hate crimes in collaboration with our first responders, public safety, such as your local police department. Taking steps to mitigate the toll that bias and hate can have on the mental and physical well-being of impacted groups in our community. And I think that this is one that is especially important in working with other agencies, be they federal agencies, local healthcare providers, and mental health advocates on how we can mitigate some of those impacts. And then also, how do we equip schools and campuses, educators, those dealing with youth, and how to respond as we return to school and other best practices. So I'll include that in the chat, as well as a bias incident and hate crimes facilitators guide, which is a 34-page resource on how to facilitate some of these critical conversations. I'm happy to talk to further on this, and I'll include my contact information in the chat. Thank you for the questions.
Thanks, Justin. Chen Chi from Asian Women for Health, a local nonprofit here, is asking, can you put the toolkit in the chat, please? And also, we have Mr. Paul Rathayem with the raised hand emoji. Mr. Yam, great to see you again, sir.
Good morning, Norm, and hello, everyone. And it's a pleasure to be part of this very important work. And I hope that we will continue this dialogue, more to come. The other part of my question about the hate and the violence against Asian American is that a way we can create similar movement like Black Lives Matter, that coordinating that kind of network across Asian American community throughout the country. One disturbing situation in Boston that I see, that the people rally at Mae Wu's home. And the question in my mind is that because of her policy or because of her being Asian American. So that's just my comment, and I appreciate it. I have to leave the meeting to attend another event at the City Hall. I appreciate you including me, Norm, and it was a pleasure meeting you and Crystal as well during the visit to Lowell. Please come to Lowell again sometime. Thank you.
Definitely. Well, I think there's going to be the Asian American Commission event at the end of next week, but we'll hopefully see you again. Justin, do you want to address that?
Just briefly on that, I think, Paul, I know you have to run, but you really brought up a very critical, important question of how do communities organize, how do communities advocate for their interests and build a movement? How do they develop and install sort of a civil rights infrastructure? And I think to some extent, or actually to a large extent, one of the results of this wave of bias and hate targeting our community has been that, in that organizers and leaders such as yourself have brought up these questions, have engaged in these conversations of what needs to be done to advocate for the AA and NHPI community. And so very much so locally across the country, there are folks that are doing just that. And I think that, and I would encourage you to continue that work of advocating for the AA and NHPI community.
If I could just add one also comment that our the people leadership in the leadership position like myself and two other Cambodian city councilors, we work with our police department during the height of the violence against Asian to have the police department disperse the cruiser to Cambodia town, and to also where the Buddhist temples are frequent by the community. So have the police visible in those areas that highly concentrated by Asian Americans. So we have done that, and then I thank the city, for leadership for doing that at our request of at the request of the community. So that's one of the things that we have done. I appreciate it. Thank you, and goodbye to everyone, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yim. I do want to pose a question to Pooh from the USDA and then conclude this segment. Pooh, one of the questions that came out through Eventbrite came from Mr. Rocky Chan at the Quincy Asian Resources organization here in Massachusetts. And he was just curious about how can locals, community-based organizations collaborate in AAPI awareness and advocacy, AANHPI. Pooh,
Is this what? Thank you for the question. Is it pertaining to agriculture?
I believe just in general, Pooh. How do you work with community-based organizations in the work that you do?
Okay. Yes. What we did here in Rhode Island, our agency provide both technical assistance and financial assistance. So we will make sure that we have funding available to help with the community or with the ad producer or in general, whatever that need. So we want to make sure that we're not just a lip service. So, and we make sure that we have the tool like conservation practices or some other that need that fit the resource that fit their need, that we can provide it to them. And then we also working with other organizations that already working with the Asian community, or it can be the farmer, can be any other, because sometimes people really don't trust the federal government, but some other organization they already trust, already been working with them. So we partnering with them. We call it outreach agreement by providing funding to that organization, help us do outreach to the people in the community there. And then we also, in terms of agriculture, we also have agreement that we call the People's Garden. And we do have a lot of people in the community that doesn't have land and then want to grow some vegetables, or anything in the community that organization that we work with already providing land to them. So we have the type of funding, 2 years agreement, and working with them so that we can gain more trust. And the other thing we do is in our agency here, we try to hire more, we hire Asian conservation planner, that we have someone that can look really similar, that go out there and can work with the folks, and so we can gain more trust. So, and then sometimes we also even interpretation needed, and we will hire interpreter to help us and working with the folks. So I hope I answered those questions.
Amazing, Pooh. That's just great. Thank you for sharing. I do have Karen Chen from Chinese Progressive Association with her hand up. Karen, thank you for joining. Please unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, Norm, and thank you for hosting this event. The Chinese Progressive Association, environmental justice has not been the kind of like #1 thing in the community's mind, but I think that, Chinatown, Boston's Chinatown, is under, quite a bit of threat in terms of, environmental stressors. We're surrounded by highways. Asthma rate, is really high. We also was part of a study where, the ultrafine particles not only, also impacted cardiovascular health. Chinatown is the heat island. It's the hottest point in the entire city of Boston. And because, it was one of the most, densely populated community, but also, because there's not a lot of open space in the area, right? And not green canopy is like, very little. And then also the rising sea level, Chinatown was a cove and we're also at risk, in those things. So, I know that there's been a lot of talk around kind of like anti-Asian racism in terms of like, particular incidents. And I would really want to, encourage us to really figure out how do we actually address, structural racism, right? And, in these environmental justice, issues. I mean, I think it's like, it would be great if you can share with me, like, how do we actually work, with the federal government would help us, address some of these like localized issues, like environmental justice, issues in Chinatown. And I'm sure that there's other neighborhoods in the New England area. And some of it also related to the wealth gap as well, that the racial wealth gap that's been, part of the kind of like housing and economic justice too.
Karen, do you know Mandy Lau?
Hi, Karen. We have not met yet.
Mandy, would you want to comment on Karen here? What she was sharing?
Of course. Thanks for your question, Karen. So I can't represent our entire agency since we have so many different programs, but I am part of our environmental justice team, and we have multiple subgroups within that team. And one of the subgroups that I am unfortunately not a part of is our community outreach. So we have people, and I can connect you to them, and I can also link it into the chat. We have people that work with our communities, and we have like town hall meetings with them, and we want to like listen and hear what the different concerns are. And we hope to address these concerns by directing the communities with the correct and proper programs within the agency.
Thank you, Mandy. That's amazing. And so we're doing really good on time. I just want to pause right here and just see where we're at. I do want to keep it moving, although we're doing fantastic on time. We will have time when all the speakers conclude to ask more questions and engage. So next up is the labor and workforce segment. And we have 4 great speakers here. The first one up is Marina Chen, Compliance Officer for U.S. Department of Labor, Office of Federal Contracts and Programs. Thank you. Marina,
Thanks,
over
Norm.
to you.
Thank you, Norm, for the introduction. It's my pleasure to be here today, and thank you everyone for taking the time to join us. My name is Marina, and I work for Office of Federal Contract Compliance Program. It's very long, but it's short for OFCCP. We're one of the agency under Department of Labor and based in Boston, Massachusetts, but we have offices all over the nation. So on a day-to-day basis, OFCCP compliance officers around the nation work to protect workers and promote diversity at workplace by conducting compliance evaluations on federal contractors and subcontractors. A federal contractor could be any private company that has a business contract with the federal government. Majority of our reviews are initiated by the agency, but that shouldn't stop you from filing a complaint with us if there's ever an issue. So doing a compliance evaluation, we review contractors' affirmative action plan to ensure that they are compliant with our laws and regulations to take affirmative actions. We also review their personnel activities. These are their applicants and hires, their employee workforce compared to their promotions and termination activities. And we also look at employees' compensation. We utilize all of these data submitted to make sure that employees are not being treated differently or discriminated against due to where they're from, so their race or their national origin, their skin tones, their gender or their sex, sexual orientations or gender identity, the religion that they believe in, or whether or not they have physical or mental disability, and if they are protected veterans. Aside from that, we're constantly looking for opportunity to conduct outreach with diverse organizations that work with females, including LGBT, and minorities, including Native Americans and tribes, individual disabilities, organizations that work with individual disability, and protected veterans. When doing an outreach, we share EO knowledge, which is Equal Employment Opportunity knowledge, and conduct hiring events. And with that said, if you feel free to reach out to me if you think I can be helpful. I'll put my contact information in the chat. Back to you, Norm.
Thank you, Marina. This is just amazing. We're making connections. It's like it's happening in real time. We're connecting the federal government with community, and this is what we want. Next up is Peter Barlett. Peter is from OSHA, Compliance Assistant Specialist for the U.S. Department of Labor in the Boston South office. Peter?
Yeah. Thank you, Norm, and good morning, everyone. And I want to say it's an honor to be here with the AANHPI community. And I really appreciate the minute or two that I have. So once again, I am the Compliance Assistant Specialist. I wear the white hat, so I'm not the person from OSHA that goes out and finds companies. I do support. Basically, my capacity is responsible for technical safety and health information, OSHA compliance assistance to help you comply with the OSHA regs. Also, community outreach. We involved with a lot of various communities, and we do training for various stakeholders, the public, and we do this through alliances, partnerships, and through our various OSHA cooperative programs. So OSHA does a lot of outreach for people, and matter of fact, it's in the OSHA Act. So what's my agency? The agency main goal is to ensure safe and healthful working conditions for all workers. And when OSHA says all, doesn't matter where you're from, your ethnic background, citizen, non-citizen, English, non-English, all workers are protected under the OSHA Act. Also, OSHA is responsible, once again, for providing education. So we don't come out there and enforce right away. We'd rather train people, educate people, offer assistance, and we do a lot of that through the compliance assistance. Another major mission from OSHA, very important, has always been very important with OSHA, also in the OSHA Act, is protecting worker rights. A lot of workers have fear of retaliation if they mention that they have unsafe working conditions, things are not healthy in their environment. And we know that in the Asian, Pacific Islander, Native Hawaiian communities, that happens often. And in certain industries, they get hired illegally, they're afraid to speak up, and they're discriminated against. So OSHA has a Whistleblower Protection Act. We have whistleblower investigators that cover 25 statutes. So that is very important message to send out to the community. So I'm just going to highlight two key things OSHA is working on right now. One of them is the month of May is the OSHA Fall Stand Down. Very important that falls from elevations in all industries, especially construction, are the #1 killer of workers. Over 1,000 workers die from falls from elevations. The second highlight that OSHA is really focusing on, and I think Chen talked about heat islands, is heat prevention, heat illness prevention. Right now, OSHA just announced the Heat National Emphasis Program to try to educate and enforce heat standards in various industries. And we know, especially in indoor restaurant industries, you have people working in hot kitchens with no air conditioning. I know it's cool now, but before you know, it's going to be very hot out. So that's a major focus right now, is on the prevention of heat illness and injuries. So there's many more I don't have time to speak about. For any updates, you can please follow OSHA on www.osha.gov. Everything is listed there. Also, you can reach OSHA on Twitter. Another good way of learning about OSHA is subscribing to the newsletter Quick Takes, and you can subscribe on osha.gov. Also for small businesses, I don't want to leave small businesses out. OSHA has a free consultation program, free service. They can come in and provide health monitoring. It's once again, it's run through the Mass Department of Labor Standards. I'll provide my email, and anybody has any interest in any of these programs or anything to do with OSHA, I'll put that on the email. Put the email in the chat, and you can contact me. So once again, thank you, Norm, and back to you. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Peter. So thorough, and so many, services to protect our workers and the public at OSHA. Thank you. Our next speaker is Rebecca Chellis, Senior Benefits Advisor, U.S. Department of Labor Employee Benefits Security Administration. Rebecca?
Thanks so much, Norm. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rebecca Chellis. I'm a Senior Benefits Advisor with the Boston Regional Office of the Employee Benefits Security Administration, which is a mouthful, but we go by EBSA. We have jurisdiction under the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, which covers private sector employer-sponsored retirement and health plans. EBSA is committed to educating and assisting nearly 158 million workers, retirees, and their families, covering approximately 734,000 retirement plans, 2 million health plans, and 662,000 other welfare benefit plans. We balance proactive enforcement with our compliance assistance programs and work diligently to provide quality assistance to plan participants and beneficiaries. Our goal in providing direct assistance is to raise the knowledge level of plan participants, plan sponsors, employers, and service providers. And really, this enables participants to better understand and exercise their rights under the law, and of course, when possible, recover any benefits to which they may be entitled. So in my role as a benefits advisor, I work informally to resolve complaints involving alleged violations of ERISA. I also conduct outreach on compliance assistance and participant rights under ERISA. But our office is also comprised of investigators who conduct civil and criminal investigations. Here in Boston, we're responsible for plans and participants located in all of New England and upstate New York. We receive complaints through our toll-free line, our online portal, and we work very closely with our state partners, like for example, the Massachusetts Division of Insurance. Currently, we're working on conducting outreach events in underserved communities, such as educating students about the importance of saving for retirement. For May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, we're in the process of working on some mental health parity webinars, and all that information will be posted on our site shortly. If you're interested in learning more about EBSA, I would really suggest taking a look at our website. It has a wealth of resources on it. You can subscribe to the site, which will provide you with updates about our agency and future events. But if you have any questions, I'm going to include my contact information in the chat. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I always love to connect with new organizations for future outreach events and always to share our resources. With that said, thank you for having me here today, and back to you, Norm.
Thank you, Rebecca. So interesting. I've never knew your agency existed. I mean, sounds like a mediator in case employers try and shortchange a worker and just trying to get what was earned back for people. Our last speaker in this segment is Heather Callahan, Community Outreach and Resource Planning Specialist for the U.S. Department of Labor, Wage and Hour Division. Heather.
Good morning. So yes, I'm Heather Callahan. I'm the Community Outreach Representative for the U.S. Department of Labor, Wage and Hour Division, so sister agency to EBSA and OSHA and other agencies. I'm out of the Hartford District Office, which covers Connecticut and Rhode Island. However, we have community outreach representatives stationed across the country and in the territories of the U.S. And we have, I have a counterpart in Massachusetts and one who covers Northern New England. The Wage and Hour Division enforces federal labor laws, and the labor laws cover all industries, whether it would be restaurants, hotels, construction, agriculture, healthcare, auto care, you name it, all industries. Our investigations often involve vulnerable low-wage workers, essential workers, and it's important to note that we do not look at immigration status at all. All workers who are here in the U.S. working are protected by U.S. labor laws without regard to documentation or immigration status and other factors. The primary law that we enforce is the Fair Labor Standards Act. So that's the federal law that pertains to payment of the minimum wage, overtime for hours worked over 40 in a week. That would be time and a half for hours over 40, that workers are paid for all the hours that they work for an employer. And it also contains the child labor or youth employment provisions concerning workers under the age of 18. So what hours and what job duties can they have to stay safe? The FLSA also has nursing mother protections. So this allows nursing mothers to express breast milk in the workplace as often as needed in a private space that's not a bathroom, a space that's shielded from view for up to a year following the child's birth. The Wage and Hour Division also enforces the Family and Medical Leave Act. So under that, the eligible employees of covered employers may take up to 12 work weeks of job protected leave in a year for certain family and medical reasons. We also enforce many other laws that protect, for example, migrant and seasonal farm workers concerning the wages they earn, the disclosure of terms and conditions of employment prior to starting the work, field sanitation so that they have cool potable drinking water in the fields, and toilet facilities, hand washing facilities, and safe and healthy housing and transportation for farm workers. We have protections for employees working for contractors who provide construction or services to the federal government so that they're paid prevailing wage rates, fringe benefits, overtime, and importantly, that they're paid in the correct classification of work that they perform. We seek to see that workers are properly classified as employees rather than being called independent contractors when the facts determine that that is the case. And we also have enforcement of labor standards under the Immigration and Nationality Act. So this regards guest workers coming in under different work visas such as H-1B, H-2A, and H-2B visas. So complaints to the Wage and Hour Division are always confidential. Complaints can come directly from employees, from third parties, from advocates, from competitors. Wage and Hour personnel speak over 200 languages and/or they have access to interpretation services. So we can connect with most people regardless of language. We have a toll-free confidential helpline. We have an excellent website that has lots of resources. We are present on social media, including Twitter. We have a Wage and Hour blog, educational YouTube videos, and currently we're working on an initiative called Essential Workers, Essential Protections. And we are doing outreach to show the rights for essential workers. I'm going to post some resources in the chat, and as well as our toll-free helpline number. And I welcome questions at any time. Thank you. Back to you, Norm.
Thanks, Heather. We're doing really good on time. There was one question that came through Eventbrite from one of our presenters, and that was through Peter Barlett. And so I want to flip the script here and just kind of pose out to the audience. This is what he wrote. What is the #1 barrier preventing federal government from reaching the AA and NHPIs and servicing the communities, and how do we remove these barriers and gain trust? I want to just pose that to the community and kind of see if anyone out there can answer that, along with asking if anybody has any specific labor employment questions for this group. But right now I want to invite National Co-Chair Paul Chang, who also works for the Department of Labor in his official capacity. Paul, do you want to jump in here and say hello?
Hello, thank you, Norm. And I just wanted, I'm actually from the same agency as Heather, but I'm in the Western region and I cover the 8 states in the Western region. My role in the Department of Labor is a unique one. It's a regional anti-human trafficking coordinator. And Heather brought up many points where I think I want to put this in context to what it means to our community. Think about who were the victims that were killed and attacked in the Atlanta spa shootings. Think about New Mexico, the victims, the different victims. Who were they? They were actually, many of them were not just working there, but many of them are migrant workers from, what I mean by migrant workers are internal migrant workers. Their domicile is not in, let's say, Atlanta or New Mexico. Their domicile is either in Boston or in New York. They go to different places around the country for work, and this is one of our key things that we keep in mind in the at-risk communities. that we in our our A and NHPI communities often don't see that, our communities, and if you look at the seniors, the women especially, many are at risk. They go to jobs outside of the ethnic enclaves, where housing is not stable, income is not stable. They are most at risk of being taken advantage of. So these are important factors, and we've put that into context of these are how we can engage in with the government. Think of how when people tell you that when I'm out of the state or out working on a job site, that puts them at risk and puts them at a danger. We are here to help and protect them. So please connect with us, and when you hear something like that happen, love to. And Marina has her hand up.
Yes, thanks, Paul. I just want to piggyback on, I as a compliance officer who typically do outreach also, I just felt like a lot of times, for example, if we settle on a case and we're reaching out to the class members because they do not know that the agency exists, and a lot of people do not have that trust towards the government. So what happens, even if we call to deliver a check for you, they would think that we're a scam. Right? It takes so much for us to convince them that, no, this is legit. We are here to help you. I think the biggest barrier with that being said is that attend more events like this, attend more outreach events. When government reach out to you, try to talk to them. The easiest way to verify credentials is go online, Google our department, and have us send you an email via our government email address. If you trust us and you give us, and you want to, if you learn more about different government agencies, this way we can build the bridge between the two.
Thank you, Marina. And I do have Mr. Alan Tan willing to add a few words in response to this section. We will close this section out and try and close with the next segment soon. And also, Mr. Ted Su has entered a response in the chat as well. But Mr. Tan, are you there? Feel free to unmute.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
sure. Could you hear me? Sorry, I won't have my camera on today. But,
thank you. Yes.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know me, I am the chair of the Connecticut Commission on Women, Children, Seniors, Equity, and Opportunity. And last night, we actually gave a presentation to the town of Rocky Hill, which was actually one of the towns in Connecticut, about this very issue. So basically, building trust in the community is an incredibly difficult exercise, and it needs to be done in partnership. The federal government can't be everywhere, just like how in the state government, we can't be everywhere. And which is why these regional partnerships are necessary. We're trying to partner with our municipalities in Connecticut because the towns are smaller governmental units, and the towns and nonprofits can work together in ways where we can connect with the residents of the town, start to get their information, and then figure out how to resolve their issues, public policy issues, in a systemic manner. So in terms of reaching out to the AAPI communities, we are historically disadvantaged. People create the model minority myth. People have done all these things to say that, we're successful when most of our community is not. So one of the things that we should continue to focus on is building those partnerships with the nonprofit community, building nonprofits to help connect our constituencies with government resources. You got to have bodies on the ground to build that trust. And I just wanted to stress that, trust is easily lost, but difficult to gain. And one of the most difficult things we've had to do was invest a lot of resources into building these types of relationships so that state government could actually begin to act on their issues. Because the other piece of this too is like the chicken and the egg situation, right? You can't talk to them. There's no trust. And then now their issues aren't being heard in the legislature, and it's like a circle. So that's what we did to start breaking it. And I'm happy to work with all the federal agencies and local agencies on this call. And we're actually trying to organize a conference on this in Connecticut this summer in the partnership of a few nonprofits. So that was
Please
what I
send
want.
us the information. Yeah, we
Sure,
would love
Megan-
to participate.
Megan, who's our staffer, she's on this call. She'll be happy to float it around.
Yes, I connected with Megan. Thank you for both of you for joining. Really appreciate you from Connecticut. I do want to keep it moving and introduce our next segment, which is economic, health, and social. And our first speaker is from U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, where the initiative currently sits. Mr. Ryan Brinke is the Regional Public Affairs Specialist. Ryan.
Thank you, Norman. Very happy to be here as a representative of HHS. Especially proud that the WHIAANHPI White House initiative is housed in HHS. It's an extremely important initiative, and equity is at the forefront of everything that HHS does. So just a little bit about me. My name is Ryan Brinke, and I'm the Public Affairs Specialist for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS Region 1, which includes all 6 of the New England states and the 10 federally recognized tribes. Our regional office is the front door to HHS in New England and can answer questions, provide information, and assist with resources for the work you are doing in your community. One of the major pieces of the work that we do here in Region 1 is focused toward advancing the HHS vision of health equity. Through HHS interagency and community partnerships, the Regional Resilience and Equity Collaborative, launched in October 2021, was created to address the persistent health and social inequalities influenced by the social, structural, and environmental determinants of health and well-being that negatively impact our communities. By forming strong partnerships and by promoting promising practices, prevention, policies, and programs that result in the community's ability to recover quickly, innovate, and thrive, together we ensure that communities are left better than they were before. And I just want to be clear that this is sort of an HHS Region 1 regional project that we've have separated into 3 subcommittees that work with various different partners and community organizations. And so I just want to say too, I'm available to help in any way I can, and I look forward to partnering with you. And to do that, we have to continue to keep up this conversation and communication between state, local partners, and federal partners. So what I'll do is I'll post or paste my email and the Twitter. We have, a whole HHS agency Twitter, but we also have a Region 1 Twitter too. So for updates with news, press releases, and any regional things that come out. And I just want to emphasize too, because I know this has come up a couple of times with the huge issue with mental health, especially after the COVID-19 quarantine and pandemic. And so May is going to be Mental Health Awareness Month. And so my office will be very interested to hear about any sort of community events that are taking place next month that are highlighting mental health. So please reach out to me, and I'd be happy to help or to point you to any other of the HHS operational divisions that we have. So thank you, and back to you, Norm.
Thank you, Ryan. We definitely want to connect you with Chen at Asian Women for Health. And let's keep it moving though, and make sure we get all our speakers, and then we'll see if we have time left. Next up is Erica Koizumi, Program Analyst at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Office of Field Policy and Management. Erica?
Thank you, Norm, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Erica Koizumi, and I'm a program analyst at HUD, and HUD's mission is to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and quality, affordable homes for all. And HUD also released its first ever Equity Action Plan this month. And as Secretary Fudge said, equity is central to HUD's founding principles and the daily work we do as a department. And I work for the Office of Field Policy and Management in Boston, which is responsible for communicating the priorities and policies of the Secretary and develop community relationships that ensure the success of the Secretary's initiatives. And so, yeah, we have various programs, but today I wanted to focus on Section 3, which is a provision of Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968. The purpose of Section 3 is to ensure that employment and other economic opportunities generated by certain HUD assistance goes to low and very low income persons, particularly those who are recipients of government assistance for housing and to business concerns, which provides economic opportunities to, again, low and very low income people. And I'm here to promote today our Section 3 tool called Opportunity Portal. So this tool, it helps to connect people with jobs and training opportunities, and as well as the Section 3 businesses to contracting opportunities. So I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. And yeah, I've been serving as a Section 3 POC for the past 3 years in the region. And yeah, I'm happy to discuss further if anybody's interested in learning more about this program. And if you're looking for any information or resources on like housing or rental assistance or homelessness, or even like fair housing, I'm happy to connect with all of you. So yeah, thank you, and back to Norm.
Thank you, Erica. Next, I want to go to Lashonda Downing, Regional Communications Director at the Social Security Administration, Boston Region Public Affairs Office. Lashonda, thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you, Norm, for having me. Good morning, all. So good morning. My name is Lashonda Downing, and I'm the Boston Regional Communications Director for Public Affairs at Social Security Administration. I'm so happy to be here. A little bit about myself. I'm served in my current role for only 3 months. However, I've been with the agency for almost 20 years, so I'm well versed in the agency's missions and goals. In addition, I possess a strong programmatic background and always strive to form strong working relationships within and outside the agency. SSA mission is to deliver quality Social Security services to the public. In my current role, I'm responsible for developing strong working relationships with stakeholders, advocacy groups, and members of the public through outreach, informational sessions, and one-on-one meetings to ensure we meet the needs of the public we serve. We strive to promote strong communication efforts among the community. Most importantly, in public affairs, we strive to find resolutions to the public's concerns and challenges, along with offering preventive measures. The latest updates I would like to share with you today, due to the pandemic, the last 2 years, the agency provided limited in-person services. Well, on April 7th, 2022, SSA resumed walk-in services to members of the public. We are working diligently to serve people with or without appointments. So we have been focusing on enhancing communication efforts to ensure seamless services to the public. For example, we are promoting our Access to Service campaign to the community, where we continue to communicate various service options for the public to access services, such as filing online, calling us for help, and scheduling an appointment. In addition, the Social Security Administration released its first Equity Action Plan, supporting President Biden's whole of government equity agenda to advance equity, civil services, racial justice, and equal opportunity for all. The Social Security Equity Action Plan includes increasing collection of race and ethnicity data to help understand whether programs are equitably serving the applicants and beneficiaries. Revising policy and practices to expand options for services delivery, ensuring equitable access for unrepresented claimants in the disability application process, and then decreasing burdens for people who identify as gender diverse or transgender in the Social Security number card application process, and an increasing access to research grant programs for historically Black colleges and universities and minority servicing institution, and procurement opportunities for small and disadvantaged businesses. You can receive information about SSA efforts and COVID-related matters at ssa.gov. We are on social media platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, and we do have an SSA blog. I am so looking forward to working and collaborating with this team. It's just amazing to be here, even though I've been here for a short period of time. If you have any specific concerns or questions, please feel free to contact me. I will leave my information in the chat box. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Norm. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Lashonda, and appreciate the Social Security being represented here. Let's keep it moving first and go to my big brother at the SBA, my friend. We through a COVID relief outreach war together, getting resources out on the street. John Hsu is Lender Relations Specialist and District International Trade Officer for the U.S. Small Business Administration in the Connecticut District Office. John, please.
Hi, thank you, Norm, for your leadership and inviting me today. Again, my name is John Hsu, and I am the Lender Relations Specialist and the District International Trade Officer. As well, I work for SBA Connecticut District Office here in Hartford. In my capacity, I'm responsible for training the lenders on SBA loan programs and advising small businesses on how to apply for the SBA loans, including economic injury disaster loans, and more importantly, how to export and take the business global. SBA is all about empowering the American dream, entrepreneurship, and innovation. Our mission is to aid, counsel, assist, and protect the interests of small business concerns, to preserve the free competitiveness, and to maintain and strengthen the overall economy of our nation. For fiscal 2021, SBA has approved lending to over 61,000 small businesses in the amount of about $45 billion. Fortunately, over $1.1 billion went to Asian businesses. That's good news. As for COVID-19 relief program, SBA has approved over 15 million Paycheck Protection Program, or we call it PPP, and economic injury disaster loans totaling about $1 trillion. In my district, in Connecticut, SBA has approved lending to over 700 small businesses in the amount of over $366 million, and over 160,000 COVID-19 relief loans and grants totaling $13 billion from fiscal year 2020 to 2021. If you want to learn more about SBA loan programs and services, please feel free to contact me. I will put my email in the chat. Again, thank you, Norm, for having me, and back to you now.
Thank you, John. John is our Mandarin Chinese speaker, so definitely connect with him if you have any Chinese enclaves that need language assistance. Let's close this out with Anna Chung, Community Affairs Specialist, Consumer and Community Affairs Branch for the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, Division of Depositor and Consumer Protection. Anna,
Thank you,
please.
Norm. Try saying that 10 times.
Oh, man.
So good morning, everyone. Like Norm said, my name is Anna Chung, and I work for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation as a Community Affairs Specialist. In this capacity, I work with financial institutions, community stakeholders, nonprofits, educational institutions, and local and state governments to bring low to moderate income individuals and unbanked populations into the traditional banking system to improve financial well-being. My territory covers Eastern Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. The community affairs is nationwide, however, and I will put in the chat a link to all of the different regions we cover and the contact information and my contact information as well. The FDIC works to maintain stability and public confidence in the nation's financial system. You may know the FDIC more commonly as a sticker at your local bank that reads, each depositor insured up to $250,000. Community Affairs works on several economic inclusion opportunities, including financial education, promoting banking services and products, building strong credit history, affordable mortgage, and supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses. We often collaborate with our federal partners at SBA, HUD, OCC, and the Federal Reserve. I'm going to put up another link to community affairs and some of the work that we do in our chat. Lastly, I want to say that the FDIC is proud to celebrate Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in May. And in honor of the observance, I will be hosting a webinar discussing diversity, equity, and inclusion and how it relates to access to capital in Boston's Asian communities. We will hear important data from Dr. Paul Watanabe, who was once appointed by President Obama to serve on the President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, in addition to other community leaders from the Boston area. While this particular webinar is centered around Asian communities, the information we learn and discuss is applicable to all BIPOC and immigrant, refugees, especially as it relates to financial and services. I would like to extend an invitation to all of you to join in this important discussion, and I'll put that in the chat too, the registration. I'd love to connect with both our federal partners, my fellow speakers, as well as those on the line. So please feel free to email me any questions you have. And I really look forward to working with all of you. Norm, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. I cannot believe that we went through 20 speakers today in an hour and a half. And wait, there is more. There is one more special person that works for the federal government. Her name is Michelle Leung. She's in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and she just wants to say a quick hello. Michelle, are you there? Unmute.
I am here. For some reason, my video is not working, so apologies. But hi, everyone. I am an assistant U.S. attorney in the U.S. Attorney's Office's Civil Rights Unit, and we enforce a pretty wide variety of federal, civil, and criminal civil rights laws that folks don't always think about when they think about our office. In the criminal space, we handle human trafficking cases and hate crimes, which has obviously been top of mind for all of us in the AAPI community. And on the civil rights side, we handle, I mean, you name it, we handle it. We handle everything from police misconduct to discrimination in schools. We actually have 2 open matters in Boston and Worcester around the provision of educational services to English learners to make sure that they're receiving appropriate class services. And we also handle housing discrimination. And we have a lot of interesting work going on and would love to be in touch more with folks about how best to serve the AAPI community.
Michelle, thank you. That's amazing. Appreciate you popping in. With that, we could completely time this perfectly as planned. And I do want to see if there's any last participant comments or anybody who wants to unmute and has a burning desire to ask any particular question. I think Ben and Paul and Phoebe will allow us to do a couple more minutes, slightly over, if that's okay. What does anybody have a burning desire to say hello? My friend German Lamb is on. German, say hello. Please unmute and
Hey, good morning, everyone. Norm, talk about a conductor right here and talk about a symphony and me listening to everyone who is part of this team and group right here. So, you know, it's just listening, you know, and far as, you know, just to bring all the faces together, all the voices and everybody specialized and, you know, different skill level and, you know, the key thing, right? You need boots on the street, right? That's the key thing, you know, how can you connect trust, loyalty, and faith with each community where, think about what you guys do, right? Well, but you need that connection, you need that human element. And once you have that human element, then everyone who has a specialized skill, now it comes together. Now everything fluids. So I just want to say, you know, thank you.
Thank you, German. German is a celebrity chef and a cancer survivor. He's a motivational speaker and brings the energy every time his presence is at an event. One last speaker, anybody? Going once?
This is Karen.
Yes.
I just want to really thank you for bringing the panel together. I feel like, you know, one of the biggest thing I got out of this is that we're going to connect with you guys. And I think we really appreciate the connection. Let's hope that, you know, like we're all connected at level of government, but also with the community. And I especially appreciate, all the comments actually, in order for government to work, the trust within the community and working with community-based organizations is key, to, transformative change. So I just want to thank you and all the panelists.
Let's end on that note.
Oh, Norm, we still have 2 more questions. Maybe we can a few more minutes.
Question? Oh, okay. Yeah, who's Ling Mei?
Norm, thanks so much. This is awesome. Let me turn on my video. It's just like I go to church in Boston. There's Cantonese, Mandarin, English, but like I'm sure like faith networks, like my mom's auntie group, like I think, is there outreach to like, the temples, the churches, like the mosques, like if anyways, it's just like they're great community resources. The aunties and uncles will tell all their friends at dim sum about like Norm knows like Karen, and Karen is really cool. And if your son has like a shady restaurant boss, like this is just, there's great word of mouth through these faith networks. So
yes, I just feel like we need your help. We as like liaisons for your federal government, we need you to invite us into the community, invite us into those spaces, bring us along and make those connections, because we can't do it alone. Like even for this event, I found myself scrambling to invite this guy and that guy, and just it's very difficult to do outreach, in general. Chen Chi, you have your hand up?
Yes. First of all, thank you again, Norm, for pull this together. We understand it's a very difficult task, and we really appreciate the connections you help facilitate. I just wanted to put in a plug again to invite you all to attend our upcoming conference on May 10th, and we will be having presentation and data coming from HHS, Boston Public Health Commission, and also DPH. And we will have the providers panel, including many of the community-based organization leaders like Karen, Chen, to respond to the data. And in the afternoon, we'll have breakout sessions to talk about all the issues that we just mentioned here, data and research, access, environmental justice, racial justice. So just wanted to invite you all to join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan, you had your hand up. You want to close us out?
Thanks, Norman. I just wanted to reiterate on Ling's comment and question about faith-based community organizations. And we at HHS Region 1 have a subcommittee that's directly working with many different faith-based organizations throughout New England. However, I will say, we struggle with representation sometimes in different faiths and different ethnicities. So, I mean, that has posed a challenge to be more, inclusive. And to what Norman said, we're not aware of everyone who exists in New England. So any way that we can be connected through other partners is great. I know there's tons of resources at HHS, would love to get out to the AHNPI communities through faith-based organizations or churches and et cetera. So one of the big things is like the child tax credit, which would have been huge. And I think there was a lack of messaging around that. And there would have been tons of individuals who would have benefited from it and weren't necessarily educated about it. So these are tons of examples about how we can do better as federal agencies, but also, to have community organizations reach out to us too. We would love to be in contact and get these resources and this information out. So just close with that. Thank you.
Marina is the final last speaker, and then it's Thirsty Thursday. Go.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that, because religion is also a protected basis. So if you connect with me or any organization that has a religion as a protected base, we can absolutely do outreach. And then as we were in the church or temples, we can then talk about, how are you protected based on your protected basis. And we're touching about your gender, where you're from, your national origin, we can cover everything, but it's really about sharing your knowledge too. So organizations, leaders attend these kind of meetings, learn about the resources out there, teach your children, teach your nephew, teach your cousins, have them pass it on, all these knowledge, so that when we reach out to you, they know that we're here to help. Just remember, we're public servants and we're here for you.
Thank you, putting an exclamation point on this. This is just the beginning. We're making connections. We're starting a dialogue. So with that, I want to thank our speakers. Want to thank all of you, and please have a great weekend.
Thank you, Norm.
Thank you, Norm.
Thank you, Norm. Thank you, everyone. It's nice
Excellent.
meeting you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Norm. Thanks, everyone, for attending.
Thanks, everyone. We're stronger together.
Thank you, Norm. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Norman. Thanks.
Thank you.